no, but that's not my question, because the
conduct
problem,
a tour
let me tell you why we need
at the same
to,
time.
reclaiming my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy and you're talking to me about safety is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas did not come to this hearing to shout. She came with a facility name, a 7-day notice policy, a child's case, and a court order. Across from her was Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, whose leadership was already collapsing under questions about ICE, detention, oversight, and abuse of power. This exchange was not the only reason Noem was fired, but it shows the kind of record that made her position impossible. Crockett's question was simple. If Congress wrote the law, why did DHS decide when oversight was allowed through the door?
Reuters, November 27, 2025, UC request. Officials criticized Biden vetting, but Afghan shooting suspect was granted asylum under Trump. And then September 29, 2025, Courthouse News, states sue DHS again over cuts to anti-terrorism grants for blue states.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. And Madam Secretary, you are almost to the end, so congratulations. I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to, entitled to enter any detention?
Representative Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee, Secretary, and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds, but I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Mr. Chairman.
testimony.
Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that are being detained there.
Let me be clear, at any time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No, that's not my question. I'm not asking you about litigation.
No.
I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to you this way.
There's an appropriations rider that talks about
Correct,
oversight.
and appropriations are law, because you are asking us to appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
No. The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to facilitate those, and we're at that time working to
Did you give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get
Were you the one that ordered that policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in that facility is going to be safe, and that I have adequate
no, but that's not my question, because the problem, let me tell you why we need to,
reclaiming
my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy and you're talking to me about safety is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are going to be the ones that are going to be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And another question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened, because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look and see.
Okay, you're part of the new administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened, because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after.
Okay, well, it was
in
reopened in March.
I would have to look at when
it was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have actually, you know what? Let me continue on this line of y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, And it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children? This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several
I'm
points
sure you would,
in
but can
there.
you tell me whether or not
That
you have a law degree?
Father chose to
Can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law degree.
Okay, and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have 2 UCs.
The contradiction is narrow, but serious. DHS says it respects congressional oversight. Noem says the department works to accommodate members of Congress, but Crockett is asking whether DHS turned oversight into permission. If the law allows members to enter detention facilities, why were they told to give 7 days' notice before seeing Dilley? That is the conflict on the record. Crockett did not build it with volume. She built it like a file. First, documents dated November 27, 2025, and September 29, 2025 entered the record. Then she moved to the law. Appropriations language, congressional access, DHS funding. If Congress writes the rule, can the agency taking the money rewrite door policy? Then came the timeline. Dilley Detention Facility. Congressman Castro, 7 days notice. A prior visit to El Paso. Officials who, according to Crockett, said the restriction came from Noem. Noem's answer was safety, but Crockett's response was the record. According to Crockett, she went into Dilley and found people who were not safe. Then she placed the defining sentence into the hearing transcript. You have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. If DHS invokes safety, that makes inspection more urgent, not less. Then Crockett added the name that changed the file. Liam Ramos, a child, a detention center, a court order, a case that, as Crockett read it, began with an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented pursuit of daily deportation quotas, even if it required traumatizing children. That was not a campaign line. It was court language placed into the permanent record. Noem said she disagreed with the judge, but disagreement does not answer a court order. The government can appeal. Lawyers can argue. Files can be reviewed. Redactions can be challenged. But an agency head cannot turn personal disagreement into legal compliance. That is why Crockett asked whether Noem had a law degree, not because only lawyers can run DHS, because the law is not a preference. A court order is not a suggestion. Sworn testimony is not a press release. There was no settlement here to close the matter. No final explanation that resolved the conflict. What Crockett assembled was a pattern. Documents, dates, Dilley, Castro, 7 days, deaths in custody, an outbreak allegation, Liam Ramos, a court order, and Noem's own answers under questioning. That is how accountability works when institutions still function. Not through trust, through records, through oversight, through the power to inspect what the executive branch would rather manage from behind closed doors. If a federal agency can decide when Congress may see what happens inside detention walls, then public trust becomes staged access. That is not transparency. That is power choosing its witnesses.